This is Building Up, brought to you by Watt, Teeter, Hoffer and Fitzgerald and the Vertex Companies, where you get insights from industry experts, reviewing topics construction professionals deal with on a daily basis, observations on new developments within the industry, and practical guidance from Vertex's experts and the attorneys at Watt, Teeter to help your business thrive in the construction industry.
Welcome back to the Building Up podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Katz, along with my co-host, Brian Padov.
Today, we have a great guest on, Walter Haass from Hudson Meridian, to talk about quality control and risk management issues.
They are a very large, successful general contractor and construction manager in the Northeast, based out of the New York City area.
And I guess without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, Walt. How are you doing today?
Jeff, Brian, thank you very much for having me on. And just to correct you, Hudson Meridian is one of the top E&R rated firms in the New York City metro area. Just, you got to throw that in there.
Of course. I think a lot of our guests will be familiar with who you are and recognize the name. And you guys are definitely doing some really great work in the area. I get to see it all the time and know some of the guys and gals on your team. So Walt, you are someone I met at a QA/QC peer group. And when we met, I really just got the impression of how passionate you are about what you do, risk management and really quality control. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Hudson Meridian, and really what sparked this passion for quality control and risk management? Sure.
So, Hudson Meridian has been around for operating in the New York metro area for the past 20 years. It's a construction management professional services firm. We don't self-perform. It's purely professional services. And I started with the firm a little over 16, 17 years ago as a junior assistant superintendent. I transitioned over to this position. My background was in the military. I was getting out, and I was looking for something new in my life. And a friend of mine pointed me towards this company and this industry, and I have not looked back. But early on, I was an assistant superintendent trying to put together a building. There was a need within our firm and I had an interest in it on safety. Safety comes with a whole lot of rules, and I was very accustomed and prepared for that with that, my background. And eventually that role of safety kind of expanded as we grew. The need for a full-time safety manager within the firm was there, and I was given the opportunity, and I transitioned away from being a superintendent and became kind of an office puke that stepped back and was looking at the operations and how we performed. Again, all about safety. Quality control really came in probably the past 8, 9, 10 years. I didn't know the job of safety other than just reading manuals, taking some classes, and I really focused trying to learn my position by joining peer groups in the New York area, and they were great. I learned majority of what I knew or know today, and how I formulated our approach by stealing good ideas from peers. All right. Quality never came up in those peer groups. I really wasn't even introduced to quality at that time. And it really wasn't until I had the opportunity to join a peer group through one of our carriers that was a national peer group that I even put any emphasis into quality control. It's actually a little bit of a funny story, but this peer group, I went, I think it was out in Tennessee, and flew out and met I want to say there's probably about 24 different firms that were represented there. I was the only one from the East Coast, especially in the New England area. And they started this peer group weekend seminar out by asking a question. And The question was like, what keeps you up at night? And
that's a loaded question.
Yeah, right. And they're going around the room, and the person who asked it was the attorney for this carrier. And they're going around the room, and first answer was, "Oh, that mold on my wood framing. Okay, my roof work that leaks, water infiltration. Okay, concrete breaks not testing correct." I'm like, okay, and it was on and on and on. I'm like, and they come to me, and I'm like, I'm afraid of someone falling off my building. Right? And she stopped, and she's like, "You're from New York, right?" I was like, yes. And she's like, "I knew it. The New York labor laws, that's where everyone's focus is." And, it carried on, and every other person other than me had it. What kept them up at night was something about quality control of a product or a task on their buildings. And I kind of left there thinking, am I looking at this wrong? And it's I wouldn't say necessarily. It's also we are a product of our environments. The New York market, because of other reasons, is heavily focused on safety, and it should be. But that also gave me an opportunity, because since all of our competitors back home in this area seem to see safety as the main focus point, I saw that as an opportunity to set us apart from others in this area.
And that was like a big shift, right? Safety used to be this luxury, and then people realized the value in it and became such an investment and such a widespread thing. And I think that you guys are probably at the forefront of pushing the quality envelope, and that's what that peer group that we were involved in was sort of seeking to do. Get everyone together and say, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And how can we do it better?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's exactly 15 years ago. If I had a question about safety, I could Google it. I could pick up the phone, or I had a book to reference that would immediately give me the answer. The resources available to a safety issue were never ending. Flip side, if I was looking for a solution for a quality control issue, I would get blank stares, or why do you even want to know?
Yeah.
And I think it emulated just the general culture that we have, or the peers at that time had, about quality as a value. It's priorities. The priorities change, and then there's values. And values really never change. And we kind of safety definitely was a value. With us, and it still is today, with our peers. But quality usually, it never elevated itself to a core value. It was, all right, this is a priority because we don't have to redo it. But it also doesn't help in the nature of, part of our business. Everything's contracts. Professional services, I've got a contract to do everything. I have the ability to pass on responsibility of some sorts to someone else. And I think maybe like the general, consensus was, all right, well, if it goes in wrong, someone else, they're going to fix it. That contractor is responsible for it, and that's ultimately the answer. But no one ever thinks about, everything that has to happen in order for that to happen.
Right. I think that's it's just so interesting to hear you talk about just the development of, that issue, that portion of quality control over the past 15 years. And kind of what you're just saying is, I guess, as an attorney, that's kind of where we come in and where we actually see things on our end. We talked a little bit before the episode and recording, where as an attorney, I really don't see a whole lot of what goes on the project site. Once these quality control type issues get to me, it's usually something's gone really wrong, and there's been a dispute that's been going on for some time. So I don't really see, what aspects are going into the quality control, quality assurance, portions of the project. So I think that's interesting. So you've kind of built that up for Hudson Meridian. That aspect of their work is this quality control. So I'm just kind of curious as to, how do you assess these risks and, implement these quality control programs on the projects you're working on?
So you can have the best laid plan, and it all goes to, it all falls apart. But there are so many things that could go wrong, and I've got a lot of failed attempts at creating this program, a lot of failed attempts, and every time it failed, I was like, all right, good. I know what doesn't work now. I can cross that off. And what I found right now is keep it as simple. We identify your major trades. We relegate those trades and the work that they're going to perform down to 8, 9, 10 core tasks that their scope of work cleanly fits into, and we maintain flexibility. Just because there's 8 doesn't mean it has to stop at 8. Is there something unique with that particular project? A lot of our projects, everyone wants to think that they're unique, but a lot of projects it's the same materials. The material quality might change, but it's still the same concept. Ensuring that the contractor is installing a product in the appropriate way with all the additional the specifications, the project specifications, I should say. I'm sorry. Then you have manufacturer specifications. You have the contract drawings. You have the shop drawings. Our job is really to marry all those up, help coordinate that, so that the contractor can execute it. And using these documents is more of a checklist. For the most part, most quality was always there. I don't want to come off and say, hey, quality was never thought of. It was always thought of. It just it was thought of by an individual of how they know to do their job. Our superintendents, they know what it takes to build a building. Our competitor superintendents, same thing. It's just we forget things. And so having a checklist, and that's really what the system that we have right now, that checklist allows us to follow a organized thought process, a decision-making process, in order to ensure that we're capturing everything. There is a book that part of that peer group I had mentioned previously. We would share good reads, and part of the conversation was talk about this when you get there. And I procrastinated, and I waited until the flight out to Tennessee to start reading this book. And the book is the Checklist Manifesto. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to read that.
Not yet, but I'll add it to the reading list.
Exactly.
It is an excellent book, all about checklists. Now, the bad thing about it is it's about checklists, and it's about air flight mishaps and accidents. So it's not a good read on an airplane. It is not a good read on an airplane, right? So
no.
I think that's from me, but it is an excellent read, and it shows the importance of the common sense approach of checklists. And so that's really what I adopted. But I got to expand upon this. Quality control is not just about ensuring that you have the right fastener and that the contractor is installing it in the right sequence or spacing. Quality control is, in our opinion, is so much more than that. It's a total quality control. It's, are you picking the right contractor? Does that contractor have the capacity and the capabilities to actually perform the work you want him to do? Do they have the means to perform the work? And the work is not necessarily installing the fastener, but it's the approaches for the project. Will they be able to successfully complete the project? Are our staff prepared for that specific, unique project? Have we provided them the training, the guidance, and the direction on how we expect them? And that's through the checklist and procedures that we put in place, are they able to perform that project? We've been coining a term for it that we like to, we're reinventing ourselves consistently, right? Surety of execution. How are we going to ensure that we get this project complete? And it's not just get it done and get it over with.
You're basically, you've got your quality control, not just on your output, it's on your input too, right? You're doing all these steps, pre-evaluative steps to make sure that you're not just building a project that is defect free, which most projects are, right? A lot of projects sometimes do have these issues that manifest later, but 99.9% of the time they get done. They all get done, and they usually get done correct enough. But it seems like you've got a relationship focus. You want this to be about these guys are A+ performers. They didn't get to just A+ product; they were A+ the whole time. And I thought it was interesting when you started. You were saying that this was sort of like an iterative process that you were building upon and building up. And I from my experience, or experience is the best teacher, right? And bad experience usually teaches the best lessons. Is that sort of we've all seen some bad things out there. Is that sort of been kind of played into your checklists and your outlooks, and experience here becomes protocol for the next one type of reaction, I guess?
Short answer is yes. We always learn from experiences. It's experiences usually are costly, so you might as well put that to some good use. One particular scenario or story I'd like to share with that on that point. I had a building, and one of the things we try to do is I don't want to take any material unless I know that it's the appropriate material for that project. So one of our caveats are when material is coordinated to come to a site, our superintendent staff verifies based on approved submittals that material is for our site and is approved. Relationships are very important, and very important also to. It's not always black and white, so you have to have relationships to be able to build still. Right? I do recognize that. So we had this one scenario where a contractor was dropping off tin work to one of our projects, and superintendent goes and inspects, and it's not the right size tin work gauge wise. But the contractor says, I'm going to get it approved. I don't want to send it back to the shop. Can I just drop it off here in one of these rooms? And the superintendent, sure, we'll put it into a room, we'll isolate it. Well, guess what happens? Time happens, and the superintendent goes into the room, and guess what's not there anymore? That's it. So now, yes. So where did it go? It's somewhere in the building now. So now we've got an exercise. Unfortunately, that superintendent had an exercise to have to go and locate all this tin that he knew was the wrong gauge, right? And he had the best intentions. He knew it was wrong gauge, but he was trying to do a solid, right, for the subcontractors, because ultimately the success of our subcontractors, is our success. The failures is our failure, right? So that was a great lesson learned, and what I like to do on that is, I don't want to say we're putting anyone's nose into it, but who best to explain that than the person who is experiencing that? I mean, I didn't experience it. I'm not the one that went through the build to find those, several pieces of tin. But when we had that next company corporate meeting, guess who was out there providing a little briefing on, lessons learned. And that lesson, that particular super, to this day, continues to bring that story up for the next generation, and it sticks. That's a good example. Now I'm going to add on to that, because that particular contractor, you have some really, really good contractors, and then you have contractors that just are not. We should not do business with, right? I mean, and so that particular contractor, tried pulling that same deal, and labeling stickers were mislabeled. Oh, it was by mistake, but you can read into certain things, and at that point, like we're at a point where we're contemplating on purchasing it and providing micrometers to our superintendents to try to thwart. We're basing our verification off of the label that's established. How at that point, how do you deal with someone that is trying to circumvent that purposefully? And that's really where the total quality control comes into place. And that's and that's one of the instances that really kind of born the fact of this isn't just about making sure the fastener is the right fastener and the right spacing. It's, do we have the right people in place? Are we using the right contractors to perform this type of work?
Yeah, I think that's really a great segue into kind of our next question is, again, you have this overarching surety of execution concept and culture within your company. How do you, I guess, instill that culture into the lower tier subcontractors that you're dealing with on, again, a daily basis?
Communication. I'd say that is probably, it's long, it's drawn out. But my kids, when I tell them don't do that, right? It's, why can I not do that? And even though that I've been telling them for years, do it this way, and this is the reason. I step back now, as they're growing older, and I'm taking the time to actually explain the reason why. I'm not relegating ourselves to my children, but it's just human nature. People want to know why. So if I can sell them on the why we do this, it works, and that's part of that surety of execution. And another part of our quality control program is our safety side, and through that we conduct trade contractor audits, and a little bit of quality control and safety are both 2 points of that. And where we show them the weaknesses they may have in safety, we also show them the weaknesses they may have in quality. And if we can, the same approach that we take with our own people on buy-in and changing the culture, we do the same with our subs. It's not just necessarily us talking to the principal of that company, because the principal will get it. So it's not necessarily about us talking directly to the principal. The principal gets it. He wants to ensure that his business is successful. Sometimes, though, that principal, that subcontractor, has a hard time pushing that narrative down to his individual workers. And so, with our ability to be on site and do these trade audits, which is really just a cost on us, but we think it's a cost worth having, because we do see that same reaction that we see with our own staff, with the buy-in of which has taken a very long time to get them there. We also start seeing this buy-in with our trade contractors' field staff. They know that, or they start knowing, based upon us communicating with them, of why it matters of that the screws have to go in every 6 inches on a piece of dense glass on an exterior facade versus every 12. Why? Because we can show them an example of it. It blew off. It ended up hurting someone. It damaged property, and you can guilt is very strong.
That's funny. I've given a presentation with some of Brian's colleagues on these risk management maxims, and the first maxim that we give is that success is either shared or forfeited. So that collaborative process, especially when you're managing 10 plus subs on a project with so much going on, getting that culture instilled into everyone is huge, and those audits sound like they're the a really good way to do it. Are there technologies or certain tools that you use that help you with respect to quality control, or are there things that you're looking at or hope that the industry is going to get in order to make your job, make your lives easier and easier to do this?
On the operating softwares that are out there. There's Procore, CMIC2, and others. We do utilize things that we've utilized for project management. I've found very good success in integrating that same approach with not only safety but quality. Part of our program is when I talked about the checklists. Well, I want a record of that, and I think, and a lot of times, having a conversation with the superintendent and the foreman on what is expected and going over drawings. Well, it's we forget things, so it's always good to have something in writing that can easily be accessed to answer your questions. And in the past, it's in the field you would find hard copies of this, and with the frenzied nature sometimes, and you're relying on the organizational skills of multiple people turning pages, and some pages being ripped out and such. Having that digital format and access to that digital documents I've definitely seen an improvement in our way to reference perishable information.
Yeah. Again, as an attorney, I love what you are saying. Having the record there of the checklists being checked and those documents in there that are executed is always it's great to my ears. That said, going along with that, have you ever run into issues where, again, it's just I'm just going to check off the box, those types of things where they're not actually buying into the again, not to use the word culture, but again, buying into the program, and they're just sitting there saying, I'm just doing this to check off the box, not going to actually do the work.
Yeah, I was inundated with that in the beginning, even with our own, some of our own staff, because again, it's early on, some individuals take it very personal. Construction is full of type A personalities. All right. It's a very demanding job. And you go to that superintendent that has been doing construction the same way for the past 30, 40 years. And now you're telling me I needed to do what? I mean, but once you show them why you're doing it and the purpose, and you're bringing them into the fold of, there's a bigger picture here. It's not necessarily just you get it done today. It's the longevity of it. It's a record of it. And you see what works for them. Sometimes it's just, giving them the benefit of explaining your job and what you're looking for, and, what happens later on. And they buy into it. Sometimes, they're very proud. Being proud is a good motivator too. It's like, well, listen, you put up a great building, but what's going to happen in a couple of years? When this is why we do what we do. And I'll tell you, attorneys, I love using case studies, that we experience, to provide that motivation. Look at what this person's trying to do. They're trying to twist what you built out there to say that you never did this, and you could solve that by simply complete a checklist, but follow through with it. Look it's all the same things you're doing already. Just ensure that you're actually executing this. So, early on, it was tough. It was very tough to get buy-in. But as we've been, the other part too is having buy-in is also have us and myself to have the flexibility and the openness to, all right, maybe I'm wrong. Like I said earlier on, I've tried a lot of different approaches, and a lot of approaches failed. And what I have today works because it's collaborative. It's not just me sitting in an office away from that job site dictating, this is what you're going to do. It's me sitting in an office listening to our superintendents, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to perform the work, and I want to make sure that it's realistic and achievable.
So you can obviously measure the success of your program by the products that you complete, where you it's silent, right? There's not any issues, or you see the people actually doing it, and all's well that goes well. But how are you seeing that your emphasis on quality control benefiting you on other levels? Like, are you seeing owners and developers that you're working with taking notice of this? Is this something that they would say, oh yeah, I got to use these guys again because of this? Like, what kind of commercial goals, commercial benefits, relationship benefits, cash flow, claims, schedules? Like, what are the other second order positives that have really been coming out of your focus?
So I think more and more owners are holding on to properties, that I hear, and they're interested in day two operations. They're not. It's not necessarily like smash and grab and they're out of the market. It's they're going to be living with this product for many years, especially some of the clients that we perform work for right now. So the quality, they want a quality product. Sometimes they don't necessarily know how they're going to get it. So early on, I kind of recognized we're competing. We got a lot of competition in the New York market. We need something that sets ourselves differently and be able to bring them a product or an approach that we're using, and that provides them, again, that surety of execution. It makes me feel better. It sets us up for success. It allows us to bring a subcontractor that, not all subcontractors are A's, but there are some subcontractors out there that provide incredible value, and us having and it's not necessarily that they don't know how to perform the job well or in a good quality manner. Again, it goes back to is they're getting the added benefit of the hard work that we put into this, right? And with our checklist, a system approach, and them following that versus on another job where they don't necessarily have to follow that, automatically makes them a better contractor for us.
Yeah, you're elevating your subcontractors, right? Yes, and yes. Again, that success is shared, right? It's not forfeited. So,
and then on another end of it, just insurance. I mean, for us, which everything goes downstream, carriers in the New York market, I think, are, especially the past 5 years or even more so than that, they're when we would get an insurance audit conducted, it was just heavy, almost 100% just on safety. And now we go perform these audits, and we have the carriers asking questions about, all right, what's your water intrusion mitigation plan? Well, thankfully, I had that because I'm prepared. I've been doing this already for the past 10 years. I got that. Or they start thinking about, all right, what happens when it's going to snow and your windows aren't in yet? I got a plan for that too, because these are all things that we've been preparing for, and the emphasis is shifting. I won't say the emphasis, but it's expanding. The questions are expanding, and their approach of they're folding quality into their areas of concern, right? So I see a lot of buy-in from everybody now, and quality is here. It's something that is given the same value that safety had or has enjoyed for the past several decades, and it's exciting. And I like talking about it because it can only better what we leave behind, right, and what we put up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's just very interesting. And again, coming at it from the legal perspective, I hadn't even thought of the insurance side of them seeing how these quality control plans being implemented will affect them as well. It's very interesting topic. And again, I think as you said, it's kind of, I wouldn't say there's just this more of an emphasis on it I would say within the past couple decades here, and it's still developing as we go. And I think I'm looking back or thinking about this conversation. I think, one of the biggest things I've, heard is really having that set goal of, again, your phrase is the surety of execution, and having everyone buy in that's on the project. I come from a sports background, and I'm sure your military background helps with this as well, as having everyone on that team buy in with good leaders on top who understand we have this one goal. Let's put a plan in place to get to that goal. And hopefully at the end of the day, we have a project that's complete, hopefully defect free, everything, and everyone's happy.
You sounded like a coach in the situation, right? I like that you were there and you're not just telling, you're demonstrating and you're showing, and that I think is the key in really anything in construction. Not just do it like this because I said so. Do it like this because X, Y, Z, and that's the way to move the ball there, to keep with the sports metaphors.
Yep.
Well, listen, I'll add a military one in there. I grew up on Patton's quote of a good plan today is better than a great plan tomorrow, right? As long as it's executed violently. And I know I'm taking it out of a sequence there, but I don't like that. I don't like that quote. I know we have to produce. That's given, right? But I take that quote and kind of mash it in with a few others of, an ounce of prevention is worth that pound of cure or flesh. And at the end, I top that with inspect and don't expect. This us sitting behind contract of I can always blame this on the person who did it. Well, why do I have to go that route when all I have to do is good pre-planning, think things through? Am I going to miss something? I am sure I'll miss something. It's a given. There's a lot out there, but seeing, measuring that the success of this program, I think are our people and our subs. Is everyone on board with that train of thought? I'm going to think this through. Sometimes too much, right? I want to continue to move, but I'm not just going to let it be. I'm always going to be planning. I have an organized methodology on how I'm going to make this approach, and seeing that the synapses of our staff and subs, working towards that goal. That's my proof that the plan is working, because I got no other proof that it's working, because you don't see anything. I mean, and that's that's the success, right?
Exactly.
I can't measure, the one time, when we see one thing that, so the quality issue, the quality program is failing. What about all the things that we don't see? I mean, it's working. So
exactly right. And the proof is in the results. And yeah, there's a lot of mindset on how you can avoid the risk or shift the risk through contracting. But really, that just moves it around, and then of course you're in the position of needing a consultant or needing an attorney to fight for it and pursue it, and the long process and breaking the relationships. And by that time, like you said, you need to produce, and the schedule's out the window, and the excuses, even as valid as they are, they go so far. So I think that idea of collaboration and managing the risk as effectively as possible with everyone involved, and upstream, downstream, and making it that culture is essential. And it sounds like you guys really have hit the mark on it, and it sounds like there's going to be a lot of continued success for you guys, which is exciting. And I love that you're willing to pull back the curtain and elevate everyone else too. Your passion for sharing this with other contractors to just elevate the market is really commendable and really cool. So,
well, that was the motivation also behind trying to establish that peer group here in New York. It's we can do better. as an industry. I think we do well, but I also think I like to see the way we approach quality as a proprietary. And I'm probably going to get regret certain things that I'm saying, because I'm showing you the way we do business, and if it's working, I think we get great accolades on it and response from clients and subs. But if for the benefit of the industry.
Yeah, well, like you said, knowing what to do isn't the same as actually doing it. So you might have all the steps and the checklists, but you have to have the right people and implement it to make it work. And that's what sounds like you guys are doing. Walter, this was really great. We had a lot of good dialogue today, and learned. I like talking to you. I love your passion for this, and really thank you for joining us today and sharing your insights.
Yeah, this has been amazing. I've learned so much in this 40 minutes here, but it's been great. We really appreciate you taking the time today.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure, really. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe so you don't miss any insights from future guests.